All right, UV, you are set to go.
All right, thank you very much. Welcome to Human Rights Commission meeting on February 19th, 2021. And we call this meeting to order. And our first thing is roll call. So I guess we can go around or. Who's here?
Kim Knight here.
Okay.
Justin Hubbard.
Dan Grow here.
Matt Mashajic here.
Right.
Wazoo here.
Jody
Kelly
McIntyre.
Roberts. Oh, Kelly Roberts.
Okay, very good.
Scott Forster here.
Alize Scott.
Kayla Crosby.
Joey Torres.
All right, is that everyone?
UV, yes. We also have, I believe, Kate Ebersole is joining us as well. And we also have Chris Blakesley is unable to make it this evening, it looks like.
Okay. Okay, very well then. Were there any public discussions, public comments rather?
There are no public comments that we received in the mayor's or the clerk's office.
Okay.
I know Kayla, you wanted to talk about what you're doing at JCC, right?
Yes, do you want me to bring that up now or later on? We've got 2 events at Jamestown Community College I'd like to make the commission aware of.
Okay, we can do that right now then.
All right. Next Monday, we have paid for a group ticket for the world premiere of Freedom Summer. It's a play based in 1964, where Nora starts a new life passing as a white woman while her sister Carrie travels to the Deep South to register Blacks to vote. And so that's set against the backdrop of the 1964 Mississippi Voting Rights Project, Freedom Summer. And so there is a link for a stream to watch from the comfort of your home or wherever you're at. It'll begin at 6 p.m. and I can share that link with the group if everyone would like. So that's next Monday night at 6 p.m. And then on Thursday, the 25th at 12:45 p.m. Thursday is the 6th annual Jazz and Friends National Day of School and Community Readings. And so there's a book titled I Am Jazz, and it is about a transgender individual. And so at JCC, Greg Grab and I will be hosting the book reading, and we'll be live streaming that as well. So I can email both the information and links to everyone if anyone from the commission would like to be a part of it. We're not welcoming guests to JCC right now, but everyone's able to participate virtually at this point, and you can share the links with anyone else in the community that you'd like to as well.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I guess we're going to turn it over to Kate because we're going to try to finalize our mission statement. Okay, so.
Okay, thank you. And what I did, I took last time I worked with statement, and there were quite a few different phrases, words, all of that, and developing a mission statement many times is almost like a wordsmithing kind of activity. What we had done, we had broken into groups and really talked about the draft sort of vision that we had developed together and said, now what would be the mission? Because the vision is what does it look like? The mission is how do we get there? I thought it might be helpful, so I did a little bit of research. I thought it might be helpful to show you what some other human rights commissions have used as their mission statements, just to give us some context. You know, what might it look like? So can I share my screen, right? I should be able to, right?
Yes.
Yes, I should. Okay. Here we go. All right, can you all see that?
Yes.
You see my screen? All right, great. So what I did was first I just started with a couple of examples. First of all, from the New economic, cultural, and intellectual life of the state. And by the way, if I lock up, let me know so that I quit talking. If, because sometimes it goes out a little bit. The Amherst, Massachusetts Human Rights Commission, to ensure that no power goes unchecked and that all citizens are afforded equal protection under the law. I found two interesting ones. In the first one is another short one, the West Des Moines Human Rights Commission influences an advocative, equitable, and thriving community. And then the Waterloo, Iowa one was longer, and mission statements can be longer or they can be shorter. And it's up to all of you to determine what will be your drive, what will drive you to do the work you want to be doing over the next couple years. And the Waterloo, Iowa one, the longer one, was to protect and promote the personal dignity of all Waterloo citizens and eliminate any discriminatory barriers that prevent them from reaching their full production capacities. We seek to make compliance and education a meaningful and visible strategy as we work towards the elimination of discriminatory practices in the city of Waterloo. So draft, and I'm going to be very honest, I wasn't sure. I thought this was the vision, but then in my notes it said mission. So I'm not sure, but I thought it was our vision. Anybody can correct me if you have different things in your notes, but it was to transform Jamestown into a welcoming, empowered, and diverse Mecca of hope, acceptance, safety, celebration, and unity. Now, where we pick up our discussion tonight, is to say, because it says to transform, it is sort of mission-like. If it were purely a vision, it would be Jamestown is a welcoming, empowered, diverse Mecca of hope, because a vision statement is where are we at in the future. So if you want to just change that in your mind, because that might have been what I started to say, that the mission for the Human Rights Commission could start with more of that action to transform Jamestown into what we had identified as what Jamestown will be, which is an empowered and diverse Mecca of hope, acceptance, safety, celebration, and unity. So when we then did the exercise, how do we mission of the Human Rights Commission? We broke into groups. As you can see, there was quite a few different phrases, different ways. We both, one group did written, other group did phrases. I tried to capture them all. And we could do this a number of ways. One way is just to read through these and to have all of you start identifying common words, common phrases, or just phrases or word want that in our mission statement that resonates with me. Okay? You, in the long run, own and feel comfortable with. So what I thought we might do is I'm going to read through these, and we can do this one of two ways. I could actually do a roll call back to all of you, or we could use the chat feature, and you could start chatting in any thoughts that, like, what resonates with you, what phrase. If you were to do that, either chat or verbally, I highly recommend you hone it down. There's a lot of words, a lot of thoughts here, and we have to distill it down to the basic juice, whatever, that's going to make the mission live and breathe for all of you. So what I would say is if anything, start with that vision of Jamestown as that safety, celebration, and unity, and start thinking about how does the work of this commission get us there? What has to happen? Which of these words or phrases, in your opinion, has to be there to get Jamestown there through the work of the commission? So before we go further into this exercise, comments or questions from anyone before I give you specific instructions? Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to just read through these. And what I'm going to ask you to do is start marking on a piece of paper, however you want to do it, words or phrases that you have to be in there. And I'm going to encourage you, don't choose more than 3 words or phrases. Because otherwise we're going to have people who are giving us, we're going to have a lot of different stuff coming up anyway. So I'm going to encourage you to also be disciplined in your view, have to be in there, okay? So I'm just gonna, okay, there we go. Now, terms, education, understanding, empowering. Instead of just cultures, we were thinking culture and communities. Acceptance, foster, create, foster and secure. Open community that celebrates our cultures, diversity, and communities. So we're starting to see some similarities, so just pay attention to that. Embrace and celebrate diversity. Inclusivity. Fearlessly using equal measures of justice to address the greater community needs. Create safe spaces where everyone's voices are heard, which promotes empathy through awareness and education. Safe spaces, people to thrive, no matter what their culture and beliefs. To cast a vision for everybody in the community. Still deal with core issues in our communities with equal justice. As representatives of, and I didn't get the rest of that phrase, so I'm not sure where, I'm sorry if I missed that in my notes when we did this exercise last time, but that's all I had was ... Then from the group that did the written pieces, educational programs, opportunities for free dialogue, promotion of the various celebrations of critical groups. And I think it was critical, I couldn't read the writing that well. Use of arts, music, dance, foods to promote the exchange of various cultures. Provide a safe haven, it's supposed to be haven, for the free expression of thoughts, ideas, questions, views, or to be yourself. And the one thing I'm going to challenge all of you to be thinking of is mission statement is what is the commission going to do to get Jamestown to first Mecca. So it isn't what the city will do, it's what the commission will be doing. And I just want to, might say our we're going to try and develop a mission that stays in the lane of what the commission is capable of doing. So what I'm going to say is probably the easiest way to do that is if people would like to start just chatting in their 2 or 3, no more than 3 thoughts. And I'm going to just be taking things down and then sort of try and continue to distill this down to a product that we can sort of say, yeah, that would probably work. And we may not finalize it. By the way, I'm going to check in. How much time do I have? I don't want to run over, so I want to just stay on. UV, how much time do I have?
Let me see. You probably have a good 20 minutes.
Okay. So if everybody could get their ideas down in the next 3 minutes or so we have time to read through those and maybe see, then do maybe another round of just seeing where does everybody, where do we see the synchronicities? And if anybody is more comfortable with just speaking up instead of typing in, please do so. Okay. Um, Okay, so interesting. I'm still going through it, but couple of words. Obviously, a word that comes out probably more than any other is empowering. Celebrate or celebrations, justice, and we're having the discussion now about what verb goes with justice. We have equal, equitable justice, equal measures of justice. Both of those were mentioned also in terms of definitions going, do or promote. Okay, now I gotta encouraging, promoting, maybe do or promote, create safe spaces. We definitely had safe space a couple of times. So I just create, foster, and secure were also, so foster was used a couple of times, and create was also, we had celebrate alone, and we also had celebrate diversity. So I'm going to read through the ones let me just check again. I'm doing this as we go through. So some of the words that were repeated more than once or phrases: foster, educate or education, safe space, basically. Empowering still was used probably more than any other. Celebrate, and justice in some form, whether equal measures of justice, equitable justice, something along those lines. So if we were to say, like, pull those out, this is where the wordsmithing comes in, where in 20 minutes, we're probably not going to get this done, but I'm going to still aim to try and maybe in the next 10, 15 minutes, try and get some workable definition that then maybe you can massage at a different meeting. But what I'm hearing you say that, and there was a comment someone made, and I want to read it again because I thought it was interesting. Okay, did I miss any? Maybe I did. Foster, create, secure, yes. Need action words, yes. Okay, I get the impression that justice is a significant portion of our lane, as Kate put it. I'd like to include foster and celebrate. Verbally or in the chat, do others have the impression that justice in some way, shape, or form probably should be in there along with empowering, creating safety, awareness, education, all of that? What are people's feelings about that idea that your lane should include justice in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should say, is anybody not? No, we don't want to do justice. No.
And just to expand on that a little bit, Elliot's presentation, I got the impression that like we have kind of a function of, I don't want to call it like judicial, but like hearing a case or deciding on things a little bit. And so I think our mission statement should reflect that. And I love all the positive words in here too. I really want to do that, but it sounded like we do have a specific function that we need to also respect. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. So if we were, I'm just pulling out, so we want justice in some way, shape, or form, equal measures of justice, or equal justice, equitable, and something like that. Fostering a safe, celebratory, justice-oriented community. Yes, you know, that's bringing in safe and celebration and justice. Now, the only thing about, and Dan, that's great. I like that you're starting to put those things together. Your job, though, has to be see, here's where I just want you to be really sure, because we're talking about the actions of the commission. The vision is, what does the community become? The mission is what the commission does to get there. So we want to have a community that is safe, celebratory, and justice oriented, what is the work of the commission that gets it there? I hope that just made sense, because I think, so the commission, if we were to put this, the commission fosters safe, celebratory justice, so that the community itself then becomes a safe, celebratory, justice-oriented community. Does that make sense, what I'm saying, I hope? Because you really want to think if you had to, like if you weren't part of this commission now and you were asked to join in 6 months because somebody had to drop out and somebody said, here's our mission, you would hear the mission and you would say, okay, that's what we are doing here. That is something I want to be involved in. And that's what this commission does. That's what the mission should really say and do.
Some of our mission has to include some type of exploration of these various issues too.
I
Mhm.
agree with that. Yeah. Because we have to make that document to present to city council, and that involves us having those like focus groups and exploratory groups. So I think that should be in there.
Okay. So,
I mean, when you think of the mission, you're thinking of the work. So we're exploring, we're educating, we're trying to bring forth equality or justice in some form. To strengthen the community.
mhm. So it's almost like, because I don't want to step over the two words, well, the one word, empowering also. So can somebody tell me, a number of you use the term empowering. Anybody that used empowering, what does that mean to you in terms of the commission? What does it mean the commission is empowering people to do?
I think that when I hear that word, it makes me think of empowering people to raise their voice regarding injustice that they've witnessed or experienced.
Great. So empowering people to speak up and feel safe enough to speak up. Am I hearing you right, Dodie? Other thoughts on that? Empowering.
Building confidence.
Okay.
Confidence for change.
Not just confidence, but you're building security.
You know,
Okay. And that is also another one. Okay. Through safe environments where education, celebration, and justice issues can be shared and dealt with. Okay. We've got education and celebration. We definitely want to talk empowering. And by the way, as somebody that does do strategic planning and mission development with people, I have to say the hardest thing I've had to do since this whole COVID thing is do this work via Zoom. It's really challenging to try and develop something like a jointly agreed upon mission statement in this kind of environment. You're all doing a great job of putting out ideas and thoughts, and it's all very, very encouraging, and there's a lot of good stuff to work with here. Don't get me wrong. It's a little harder for me as a facilitator to get my mind around where are we going with this exactly. So Dan has actually put in a couple of really nice drafts. Anybody else? Because probably what we're going to end up doing, because I really only have about 5 to 8 more minutes to work with you here. Continuous education while empowering individuals to strengthen the community. Okay. I'm gonna do something here. Can I do this? Ah, I can do this. Hang on, I'm multitasking. So I'm gonna stop the share for just a second because I have to do something so I can grab all this and get back to you later on it, which is copying the chat. I know this is all recorded, but it'll be easier if I just have it all. All right, good. I copied the chat up to this point. Okay, so let's go back down. Okay. So here's the thing. There's a lot of safe, celebratory, empowering, but also there's also this whole justice piece too. And where I am going to encourage you all to think about is what occurs to me is that yours may look a little more like the Waterloo, Iowa one, which actually it isn't just a one sentence thing. It's actually two statements. And I'm not saying you copy theirs, but I'm just using it as an example that you could touch on the whole develop equitable justice and also the exploratory while also empowering people to have the confidence for change, feel safe enough to speak up, to be involved, all of that. Okay, where'd it go? There we go, chat. I've lost my chat. I don't know where it went.
That happened to me and my son found it. I don't know. When you're putting the screen on, then everyone's little face goes smaller. Oh, there.
Okay.
Never mind.
Seek out, investigate, and pursue circumstances of injustice for resolution within our community in a way that empowers people to make their own experiences of injustice known. Which that actually, there's a lot of action words in there. So let me ask you this, just because I want to make sure that this will work for all of you. What if I were to take everything you're putting into the chat, plus the notes I'm trying to busily take on my sheet of paper over here also, and put it into a 2-sentence mission statement that then I send back to UV, and he can send it out to all of you, and then maybe you can finish wordsmithing it at another meeting. Would that be something that would work for all of you?
Yeah.
That's good.
Sounds good.
Okay. Because if that's the case, then I think I can, anybody else have anything further in the chat? Or they want to say verbally that they haven't spoken up, you're still thinking, you still got thoughts?
I love what was said about the empowering to speak up, but I think we also want to encourage people to be able to be their true self, to not feel as though they have to assimilate to what's acceptable by society, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Both of which can fall under the category of empowering.
Yes.
I'm going to say empowering seems to be very, very, that seems to be a word that resonates with, that enough of you that I'm probably going to have that empowering in whatever I come up with. Because it seems to be, that's a word that has been repeated and continues to be spoken by you. Any other thoughts, anything, for tonight? I want to, Kim. I have my cat, you've got your,
That's a 14-year-old boy hanging from the woodwork.
Yeah.
I think empowering is key because typically when you do community organizing, anywhere in the world, you always work with the grassroots and you work with people, not for. And so they're empowered to solve their own problems with your help. And I think that's what this group wants to do.
I love the with, not for.
I also think we should really focus on exploration as well, because it kind of implies a sort of like continuous improvement, and we're not just educating the community, but they're educating us, and we're kind of always open to like learning and changing our minds and doing different things, which I think is important as well for the kind of work we want to do.
Great. Okay. Anyone else, either people that have spoken up or anybody else that has another comment before I copy the last few chats and say, I'll pull something together. It will look like something, and I will get it all back out to all of you. Okay. If you're good with that, then I'm gonna grab the last couple of chats. That's what I love about Zoom. I can copy the chats, and then I've got those to look at, and I can actually do a more diligent job of recording all of the different things people said in the chat at least. And then I've tried to grab the notes for what everybody has been saying since then. All right. Any last comments, questions, or anything like that before I bow out and let you finish the rest of your meeting?
Appreciate all your input and your hard work on this. I know it's not easy to put all that together, so we appreciate you.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
thank you.
And it's good to know that I'm not going to do it tonight. This is getting near my bedtime. It's not the best time of night for me to figure it out, but some morning at 6:30, I'll be clicking on all cylinders and I can figure it out. But thank you. I appreciate that word of support. All right. Well, thank you all. Thank you all. You're doing great work. I so appreciate the opportunity to work with you, and I'll see what I can pull together and get that sent back out to you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is a discussion on the protocol for complaints and issues. How do we address it and so forth?
Could you clarify what you mean, what that means exactly? Are we talking about complaints that the public brings in, or complaints and issues within the group?
I asked the question, when the issues are brought to the group, how are we supposed to respond to it? You know, what's the protocol? What can we actually deal with or handle, what we can't? And our mayor said he would gladly jump in and give us some guidance on that.
Sure thing. Happy to do so, UV. So one of the things we want to do is to ensure that we have a process for when things are being brought to the group. So whether those are issues that are popping up in the community and a way for you all to discuss those issues and potentially take some action, whether that is the group takes a stance on a community issue, or whether they intend to write a letter or have a press conference, or you want to do something, take some action on an issue that's impacting the community. You all can do that as the Human Rights Commission. And then the other part of the commission, as you guys probably noticed from the last meeting, is that you do have some authority over human rights violations or complaints that come into the city. So for example, if a contractor of the city believes that there has been some type of bias against them, they can file an official human rights complaint. That then comes to this body to discuss. If an individual believes that they have not been given a promotion or a job due to some sort of issue, human rights issue, whether that is race or gender or disability status or a whole litany of issues, you all have the authority to also hear that and to potentially make a determination on that. in many cases, we would probably refer those to the state to investigate and to prosecute. That would typically come through Scott's office, or if anyone had a complaint, we have the official forms to file. But I think the discussion was centered a bit more about, how do we bring in just discussion items for the Human Rights Commission? How should, as a group, should we talk about those items to make sure everyone feels comfortable that there's a safe space and that you all can kind of agree on some type of action to take? So I think part of it was, and UV or Scott, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, is to just talk a little bit about what should the process be for bringing in items to the Human Rights Commission, and should there be a process for you guys to start to discuss those items and potentially take action on any of those items? Does that cover it, UV? Did I get it?
I think so. I think that's where we were headed.
Okay. So I'll open it up first off and just see, part of the commission is to discuss current issues that are impacting the community. So is there a process that you all want to use if a issue comes up that we can get it on the agenda to discuss? Is it something that I should reach out to all of the Human Rights Commission members before we do an agenda, which we normally do? Is there a certain way you guys want to reach out to UV and other commission members? Let's start there. Just have a brief conversation on what that would look like. Any thoughts?
There might need to be like a point person or two, or maybe even almost like a secretary because there's too many of us to get the information, and then maybe we'd have to write up a 3 or 4 step process of how that works.
So you guys do have Scott here as part of the city representative. So at any time you can reach out to Scott or UV and make sure those things either appear on the agenda or to have a discussion or to try to call an additional meeting. We want you guys to utilize those staff resources. Fortunately, I won't be able to always be on your calls and be able to support your work. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the more work, some of the additional things we'd like to have the committee do. But Scott is a huge resource for you. Not only can he accept official human rights complaints on behalf of the city, which will then be forwarded to you all, but he can be there to be the bridge and to ensure that things appear on the agenda and things get out to you all as well. I don't know, Scott, if you want to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I kind of was thinking, if we say there's an issue that somebody in the committee brings up or wants to bring to the table, if we could, like Dan said, have a point person, which could be me or UV, and then we could get that out to the group prior to making the agenda. That way everybody can kind of look at it and see, what the issue or what the thought is, to kind of, so nobody's caught off guard and everybody has a chance to look at it. And then we can, when we put the agenda together, then we can include it on there if we, as a group feel it should be on there.
And when you do that, are you gonna provide a good amount of background and whatnot when it comes to contacting people about what the actual issue is?
I think, as far as long as we have the information, if somebody has, if there's a complaint or an issue that somebody wants to bring up, I guess it's going to depend on how much information they want to give that we can give out to the group to discuss.
That makes sense.
Mentioned sending it to the group before we put it on the agenda. Would we provide any feedback on it prior to putting it on the agenda, or is it just kind of a heads up that it's going on the agenda?
I would say it's just a kind of a heads up that it's going on the agenda. That way we can have the conversation, here, an open conversation about it, rather than, if we do, however, email or whatever, it's different than if we're talking, I guess, face to face or whatever you call this.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it would just be to like say, hey, this is brought up. We'd like to put this on the agenda for next meeting. Just so you know, it's going to be on there. We don't need any comments until the meeting, and then we can discuss it.
I think the process, so after we contact you and then you inform everyone of what's going to be discussed and then it's on the agenda, then I think there has to be a process of how we go through that discussion all the way from the discussion phase to the actual action phase. So maybe like first meeting where it's brought up on the agenda, we're doing purely discussion. And then at the end of that, we kind of decide whether we're going to continue the discussion or whether at the next meeting we're going to be making some kind of decision about what the commission is going to do about that.
Right. I think you're exactly right. We need to have some steps
Yeah.
that, like a protocol, I guess you'd say, that this is steps. This is what we do to get to our final, the end of the discussion. I'm not sure exactly how that looks, but it's something that we can come up with together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested even before it gets to that point. So if somebody comes to one of us as a member of the commission, how much information do we gather? Or is that something that we hand off to someone like you, Scott, for investigation? Or
I would say it depends on if it's a complaint that they have. Like if they want to file a complaint, then there's a process that they can go through to actually file the formal complaint, and you can refer them to me or UV, and we can get them to that point of actually filing the paperwork and getting the complaint in. If it's something that they want to bring up, just as a discussion topic or a point that they want to make, maybe you can get as much information as you want, and we can. It might be that you don't need any information on it, and I don't want to throw anything out there, but if there's a topic that they bring up, you might be like, okay, I know this issue or this discussion, and we can dive right into it. But if it's something that if they bring it up to you and you maybe have no idea about, you don't not sure what they're talking about, you can ask, find out whatever you want, and then we can discuss it from there.
I'm sure it's all gonna flow on a case-by-case basis. But it sounds like we have the starts of a process, that we bring it up, we give everybody a heads up, we put it on the agenda, and then we have a discussion. And from there, I guess we'll decide whatever action steps need to be taken.
Yeah.
I think I want you all to feel comfortable bringing up different things to talk about, different things to discuss as they relate to the community. You all touch different pockets of the community, right? And we should feel comfortable trying to bring up discussion topics. And if the committee feels strong enough, taking some action, right? There are a lot of things that are often underutilized in government. So things like letters coming strongly from a committee to either organizations or to other programs, and whether those are celebratory letters, you want to recognize the work people have been doing in the human rights field across the city. That is huge. Work people have been doing to bring folks together, especially during a pandemic. Or if we want to just talk about a subject and you want to take a position on it, right? You as a committee have discussed it and you all feel strongly that X, Y, and Z should happen in order to empower and progress human rights in the city. You all were talking about the mission statement, right? Those are the types of things that we want to start to do. And we want your commission, our commission, Human Rights Commission, to be active. I can tell you that the state has definitely been looking and watching what the city of Jamestown has been doing with this commission. And they've been super excited to see that you've been working on a mission statement, that you've been trying to raise issues. And so we want to encourage that additional discussion. But also, in the event that you have individuals that come to you and say, listen, I don't think this is right, we want you to know that there is a process that you can go through Scott or UV so that they can formally file those human rights charges, and so that we can get those investigated. If you have heard of those things or people are feeling like they need to come to you because you're a member of the Human Rights Commission.
It might be a little premature for this, but do we want to think of kind of like a a voting system or something, if like we want to take a stance or something, or have an opinion on something or do something, or like how that works if we don't always agree on something.
Right. Yeah, there's got to be a certain threshold when it comes to if we make a statement, take a stance on it or not, you know, and maybe even if we're going from a discussion, like if we're going throughout these procedures, like Scott was talking about, maybe it's, you know, you need a super majority to vote on whether you're going to continue in the discussion phase or you're going to move on to the action. You know, I think that's got to be it. It can't be a simple majority. I think it's got to be some type of super majority, like a 66%, really 2/3.
You all as a group could make that decision. By default, it is a simple majority. So, you know, one more than half, right? But if you wanted to, you know, create a separate category for decisions, you can make that choice. It's just something you guys have to talk about. And then surprisingly, it's really strange, but you have to vote on it and have a majority. If you want to, you know, change the way you vote to have a different majority. It's strange, but it's kind of how the way it works. So, you know, you're welcome to have that discussion and propose that if you feel like that's really important.
And I guess I'm wondering, I know you introduced all of us to the public back in, was it September maybe, or October? But how would just the plain old citizen get a hold of all of us? You know, I guess my wheelhouse would be parents and children, grandparents, you know, at schools. But like, how would somebody know to come to one of us? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, if they even know we exist. Maybe the majority, and maybe the people who really need to be spoken for aren't getting the Post Journal, or you know, I guess, how are we selling this group to the community? Or is that another thing?
Was wondering about too. Is this going to just start organically, or are there things that we're going to do to put ourselves out there a little bit more so that people know that we're here and what we're here for? I had the exact same question, Kim.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm just thinking, like, you know, we've had, you know, 2 meetings in person and now 2 on Zoom, and thankfully Scott's on board. That's a whole new perspective for us, but it's like, now, I don't know, I just feel like, come on, let's go. We've got to.
Yeah, I mean, it is important to get the name out there and that we're here for the community anytime. But first is we gotta, you know, the mission statement, everything has to be in place before we can actually fully go out there and say, hey, we're here. You know, if there's anything you need, you know, we're here to serve.
Right.
Maybe when the mission statement is complete, we publicly announce the mission statement as well as every member of the commission.
I think that's a great idea.
I think that is a great idea, and you guys have the you know, full weight of the city government behind you. So if you wanted a page on the city government website, if you wanted a separate website, if you wanted to have us do press releases for your commission to push that out there, those are all things that we regularly do in the normal course of business, and we could do that. All you guys have to do is let us know that that's what you want, right? We're very much open to that. And I think it actually, that discussion that you just said is like, how do we start to like get in this? How do we start to make it work? I think really goes into kind of the next discussion item, which is the exploration groups. But I don't want to cut off any further conversation. And I don't want to cut off UV's role as chair here.
Well, just before we get into that, because we talked about having a vote, and we are 12 members. So if there's a split vote, who makes the deciding vote?
As it stands right now, you need to have a majority of members to pass something. If you do not have a majority of members, then it does not pass.
And you can't flip a coin.
Very well, very good.
So to clarify, then we have information, discussion, and action. That's like a 3-step process.
I believe so. That's what we kind of resolved to.
Yeah.
I think if we're involved, this is my experience in Patterson, New Jersey years ago. And I did many, many different jobs. One of the jobs I did was Habitat for Humanity, taught in a community college and so on. So the more you live and build relationships in the community, then people naturally trust you and will share their human rights violations. So that's kind of how, they have to build trust. A lot of stuff is hidden until you just kind of find it.
I agree with that, but very true. I think it's important that we put out who we are, and people can see us also, so they know who they might think about putting their trust in.
If I could, I was gonna say, if I can make a recommendation, what might be a really good idea is we're happy to put up a webpage on the city's webpage. Maybe we have you all get headshots and we do kind of a profile on our commission members. And so folks know, who to look for and a way to contact you, whether that's, through the city or directly to you. And so we've got an opportunity there so that they know who you are and, how they reach out to you.
Sweet.
Great idea.
I've been looking to get headshots done anyway, so that's perfect.
And I think we all have, in our own niches, we all have built trust with our community, where we would be pulling from.
We all have our own networks.
Like Dan said, yeah. And they could intertwine and, and then grow.
And I think as we progress and the more stances and opinions we have on things, people will eventually know that they can come and tell us things and trust us and know that, try to address things.
Yes.
Also, not even taking stances also was brought up that we should recognize champions of diversity also. All right, there any other comments? Okay.
Yubi, just to clarify, so from what I am hearing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I will go ahead and have our office start to coordinate to get you all headshots and work on profiles for each of our HRC members. So we'll start that work now as you guys finalize your mission statement. Did I miss anything on that? Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Sounds good.
Okay, the next item on our list was the creation of exploration groups. As the mayor and Scott and I had discussed that we wanted to form groups to reach out to the community. And we have some examples on the agenda. These are not necessarily the groups that we have decided on, but we wanted to present it to this group so that if there is a group that a committee member could chair and community members could possibly work on, and we could use it to explore the community and find out what some of the issues are and, possibly come up with some solutions through these groups. But we wanted to bring it to this group first to decide what exploration groups we wanted to kick out.
Yubi, can I add on to that?
Yes, sir.
So as part of it, and I think I probably talked to every one of you about this, we wanted to ensure that our Human Rights Commission is able to kind of roll up their sleeves and start to look at different parts of the community. And I think now that you guys have almost finalized your mission statement, you've had some meetings, you've gone through that process, I think it's now time to take action. And so as part of that, we wanted to come up with a couple different buckets of groups that are really large topics in the community that are things that need to be addressed, or there are pieces of the community that really want to talk to someone more and maybe try to find a way to do better in our community. So this group is perfectly poised to help and learn and hold listening sessions on a lot of different types of issues. And so UV, Scott, and I were working through just trying to brainstorm a couple examples of groups, and there could be many more that you all might be interested in. But a good vision for that would be to have a commission member chair one of these groups, and you guys could meet as little or as much as you want. This is an opportunity really to be a working exploration group, to connect with certain parts of the community, and to really focus on it and report back to the whole commission to see maybe there is action that needs to happen in an education group or a disability awareness group. You've met with your folks, it's someone's chairing it, and we've got other Human Rights Commission members that might be on it, and you've talked to folks that are in the disability community, and you realize, hey, we need more funding for sidewalk ramps, right, or better access for the community. How do we then take action and advocate to say, you know what, City Council, we need more money for that, right? Or we needed the state to come in and help us provide more handicap accessibility. Those are the types of things that we want to start to push, and we want to start to look at. And as you mentioned, we put together a few groups, but we wanted to see what you all think, and are there other groups that could be added? And if not, are there folks that want to lead some of these groups?
What are the groups?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
So I would say that I am very much in support of the disability awareness group, and I'm not sure about leading, but I would very much find myself wanting to participate in that one.
So just to give folks an idea, thank you, Dodie. So just to run through the list of the ones that we just kind of briefly came up with. Education group, so educating the community. Disability awareness group, an LGBTQ+ group, and an interfaith group were the few that we kind of brainstormed.
I would be up for chairing or heading or whatever the LGBTQ group.
I'm
Would
kind of
that
interested.
work with the Jamestown Pride, or is that just a whole other entity? Eddie, you know how the
Sure.
that
It absolutely could, but there are other groups in the city that may not encompass just Jamestown Pride.
okay.
So it would be, although it could work very closely with that group, there are, and happy to work with you, Justin, on, there are several other smaller groups that deal in that type of LGBT community that doesn't always fit and still needs to have conversations with.
Yeah.
I think they're all good. I'd like to be involved in all, but that's impossible. As I'm an educator in the school system, so maybe some of that, if that involves, I've always worked with kids that are either kicked out of school or on the autism spectrum have learning disabilities. And if the disability group includes kids with autism or learning disabilities, I'd be very interested, because my older son, who will turn 30, is in the autism spectrum. And he would love to be part of that as well, because he gets help from the resource center, but he's having a difficult time as a very high functioning person with autism. Nobody wants to hire him full time. So he's in it. And, you know, I'd be interested if you're also including that in disabilities. There's a lot of mental disabilities, learning disabled people. Usually those are the kids I tutor as well. And if they get an IEP diploma, that is basically worth garbage. So if that's what is included, I'd be interested in that one as well.
I'd also like to, I'm also interested in the disability part of this. I have a brother that's a deaf mute and he's at the resource center, and I'd love to be part of that group.
Just a clarification question. I mean, like Dan said, I'd love to do all of these. Are we looking for a certain number of us on each of these groups? Is it just one? Is it more than one? Should we wait for other groups? How's that work?
I think there's no specific number, but we wanted to use these groups to include community workers who maybe didn't necessarily get on the HRC, but want to do something, you know.
So I think, Matt, one of the questions or one of the answers to your questions is that we'd love to have one or two members chair each group, but all of those meetings would be open. And so any of you could go to each other's work groups. We'd try to just make sure we schedule it and just let everyone know. A similar thing currently happens to other committees, like for example, City Council has subgroups, and many times City Council members will jump to other subgroups just to hear what's going on. And then if they can't make it, there's a report back to the main group as well. So ideally, we'd like to have one or two people chair each group, and then keep it open for any commission members to be a part of. And then we have, as UV pointed out, a whole bunch of people that really want to get involved and have continued to ask to be involved, and are really focused or have a lot of expertise in these areas. And we'd like to get them involved as community members.
Now the interested parties that would want to jump on these smaller work groups, would they have to be Jamestown residents?
No.
Okay, great.
Yep, they could be anyone. It's these smaller work groups would be open to the community. They would be formally chaired by a commission member, but we would open those up if whoever's chairing the committee would like to the community. That could be from anywhere.
Thank you.
So Mayor, after the group is formed, after somebody says that they would chair that, then you will provide the names of individuals who perhaps applied for the Human Rights Commission or that you're aware of that would like to be interested in those subgroups.
Absolutely. Yep. What we would do is either provide you the names of those individuals, or we could set meeting dates and put that out to anyone who was interested and allow them to join.
Would this be on Zoom or in person, or depending on the pandemic?
We would prefer that those be on Zoom, but if we needed to find large enough spaces, we understand that not every group may be able to have access to internet, right? Or to those resources. So if we need to find large enough spaces for it, we could, or attempt to limit the number of people depending on the space.
I don't know if there could potentially be a need for a group that kind of does outreach for people struggling with like addiction or going through the rehab process, or similarly a group that kind of focuses on some of the city's less affluent communities and making sure that we're addressing those needs and kind of meeting any needs that they have better.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we, is there a certain phrase we want to give that group?
I think when it comes to addiction, I think like recovery is a good term. You know, a group for people in recovery. I think for that we'd have to contact, and before we name it, we'd want to contact some people down at MHA or something,
Yeah.
how they would phrase it.
But I also don't want to exclude people who are not necessarily in recovery.
Exactly. Yeah.
So more like people who have barriers to healthy community and engagement or involvement.
Mhm.
Even call it healthy community.
I was gonna say healthy community, that could also encompass like housing. That's what I see a lot of people,
Poverty.
they're, you know, that they're renting and you know, they're just negatively always talking about the landlords and just that there's just not enough places to live that are decent. That could go.
Yeah.
You know, I think healthy, I like that healthy community living. I don't know. And then education, that education group, are we talking educating like we're talking schools? Like I'm just thinking me at public school, Kayla with the JCC connection. I don't know. Is that what you meant by education group?
I think when we originally looked at it, we talked about educating the community about different pockets of human rights, right? It could be race,
Okay.
religion.
So that could probably encompass that healthy living, all of that.
But I also think having a group of educators wouldn't be a bad idea. You know, because we have a few of them in here.
Mhm.
So if anyone's brave enough to want to head a youth or teen group, I think that might not be a bad idea. I'm not doing that. I do enough in my day job. So
Yeah.
It's a great idea to involve the youth
yes,
and young adults in our community. Absolutely.
I think it's also good to involve the parents where it's not, doesn't sound like PTA. You know, the PTA in schools seems to always just be more of a stuffy kind of a group that people don't freely want to join or be a part of anymore in my experience. So I don't know, that education group could also just get parents involved. I think a lot of parents are just lost about what's going on in education and who to go to. And sometimes it's the teacher that they can talk to and feel the most comfortable with.
So am I hearing two groups or just putting into one? Because I heard kind of a group that could be youth inclusion, right? And then I also heard about potentially including youth under education. Do we see that as a need for two different groups or just one?
there's a need for two different groups. I think you have a group that is specifically for the youth. You know, 14 to 20 or something, and then a group for educators and parents that want to be involved in the in that, you know, in the process. You know, maybe like Kim, if you ran it, maybe you could do something where you met with the teachers every week, and then you met with the parents on the opposite weeks, and then every third week or whatever, you meet them all together. You know, I think something like that might be a good way to do it.
Yeah, that's fine. That sounds good. I can do the education.
Sounds like Kim is now the chair.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yay.
Yay. I haven't been here more than a year, and I also worked in downtown Syracuse with refugees and so on. I don't know, does Jamestown have any refugees or new immigrants that are hidden? Because that could be another group. I know in Syracuse, we not only had citizenship classes, but we had a whole refugee program where we took refugees from Somalia, from Iraq, Afghanistan, and found them housing and stuff like that. So are there anyone like that in Jamestown? Because that could be a separate group too. Or the Hispanic community, I don't know.
I think definitely, I mean, definitely there should be a group for the Hispanic community in some capacity. I think refugee population, I don't think we have a high enough population of refugees in Jamestown. Like I've never met someone with refugee status in Jamestown.
We do have some, but we do not have a large, at this point, from what I can tell, a large population. We do have a large influx of just new individuals of many different cultures coming into the city. And so there is some potential for that, you know, kind of multicultural inclusion, things like that, or understanding. But we aren't seeing as large of refugee populations as, for example, Syracuse, Buffalo, some of the larger urban centers at this point. Dan.
Well, at this point, time is getting late. I think if we took the time to put some thought to these exploration groups, it sounds like we have a couple leaders identified, but we're not limited to these examples. And so if you have any other thoughts, maybe we can readdress this on the next meeting.
If we have a proposal for a group, can we send them to you, Yubi?
Sure.
And then maybe we'll get some public comments too, who knows?
I will send out probably Monday the notes that I have just from these groups. It looks like so far I have an education group with Kim as chair, a disability awareness group. We don't have anyone who is currently chairing, but we have Dodie, Dan, and Billy who are interested. We have a LGBTQ plus group for Justin as chair. No one has stepped forward for an interfaith group. We have a healthy community group, which Momina expressed interest for, although she hasn't committed to being chair yet. And a youth inclusion group, which was a question mark.
And Kayla noted in the chat, a BLM group.
So I have a question, or maybe a question comment about that. So if we're going to address the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it would be better to have a group that is addressing the Black community, not Black Lives Matter in general. I think that would be addressing the needs of that specific community instead of a specific movement, if that makes sense.
I would agree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So do you want a specific group that focuses on the Black community, or do you want to, I mean, because if we do that, we also need to look at Hispanic community, we need to look at other communities. So we can either create multiple groups, or we can take a look at something like a multicultural perspective.
Like the healthy multicultural community. I think that would all tie together.
Well, I think a lot of our groups tie together, but I think that maybe some more, being a little bit more specific.
I think we got to be specific when it comes to that. I mean, these are individualized groups of marginalized people that have their own unique cultures. So to combine all of them and just, basically just say non-white people, that's not going to be good enough. Yeah.
But I think those issues are going to come out during education in the group when I'm talking with parents and kids. I mean,
It'll come out in all of our groups.
Well, all the groups, everyone's intersectional, right?
Right.
You know, I mean, if we're talking LGBTQ plus group, we're going to have people of color on that group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all the groups are intersectional. So you're going to be addressing multiple needs in all of the groups, but in those specific groups, you know, I make them as specific as possible while also addressing the specific needs of that community.
And as of now, like the Black culture as a pressing need due to what's been going on in society, I think more groups could be added in the future. And if we want to establish a few others right now, we can, but I don't think we need to feel like we have to be inclusive at this point. We can continue to add as we grow.
Mhm.
Right, so I have added a group for the Black community, and I will send around all the groups that we have at this point, and then you guys think of other groups, or you decide you want to chair one of those groups, let UV know, and so we'll make sure we get those squared away. And if you're already chairing a group and you guys want to start getting working right away, let me or let UV know, and we will get things scheduled.
For the groups about specific, and I know I keep going and y'all want to end, for the groups that are about specific ethnic groups or ethnicities, for example, the Black, if we're talking about an African American culture group, I think that should be headed by someone who is in that group. If we're talking about Black people, that should be headed by Black people. If we're talking about Hispanic people, that should be headed by Hispanic people. The only reason that I volunteered for the LGBTQ group is because, from what I'm aware, there's no one on this committee that is of that group, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yep, we do have some chairs that there's a lot of groups that don't have chairs yet. So you guys should think about that. I would agree with you. Decide who wants to do what and go from there.
All right, that sounds good. So if all minds are clear or any last comments, we'll take them right now. Okay, if not, then we'll call this meeting adjourned.
Thanks everyone for the great work tonight. I'm excited about these groups and I'm excited about getting moving, and I'm really, really excited that you guys have finalized your mission and you guys are moving forward. This is some really great stuff, and believe it or not, you guys as a group, the Human Rights Commission here in the city of Jamestown, is really pushing forward, while a lot of other human rights groups in the state haven't really been as active. So we're super excited. We want you guys to continue, and I'm really, really excited to see what we're going to do with these exploration groups.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
everybody.
Stay warm.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Take care.